Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another video on the B-Mills YouTube channel. Today we have a special guest with us, Kyle Johnson. Give it
Hello.
up for him. So Kyle is a fellow Survivor lover, and today we're basically just going to have a conversation about Survivor. What are our favorite seasons? Who are our favorite survivors? Least favorite seasons ever? Fun things like that. So Kyle, do you want to tell the people of the world a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So I hadn't watched any Survivor until quarantine started in March. And it was kind of a family thing. We all decided to start watching it together. And so 7 months later, we've watched 17 seasons in in record time. And so I can kind of run through the list of seasons I've watched.
Go for it.
So with the 40 total seasons, we're just under half right now. But we started with season 28, Cagayan. Then went to South Pacific, which is season 23, Heroes vs. Villains. The Blood vs. Water 2, isn't that San Juan?
San Juan del Sur.
Yeah, okay. Then Gabon, am I saying that right?
yeah, Gabon.
Okay. And then Cambodia, Cook Islands, Pearl Islands. Then we finally watched Winners at War.
Nice.
Then the original Blood vs. Water.
Mm-hmm.
Karamoan. Then the first season Borneo, Micronesia, Africa, Game Changers, David vs. Goliath, then Token Chains, which we just finished last week.
Nice. That's a pretty good mix, I'd say, of like a lot of the major people who have returned too.
Yeah, because I have them like all laid out here out of 40, and the only like big gap in like the show's history that we haven't really watched yet is between Pearl Islands and Cook Islands, so 7 through 13. Besides that, it's like just like 2 season gaps between the ones we've watched.
Probably the only notable season between there two is All Stars, the first returning player season. But besides that, a lot of those seasons are pretty mixed as far as their reception. So I think it's a pretty good breadth of experience with the show. For people out there who don't know, I've seen every season of Survivor because I'm overly fanatical. But like Kyle, I watched many seasons during quarantine as well. I'd probably seen 30 of them before quarantine and watched 10 during quarantine. Around that, I'd say.
What was your last season again? Was that All Stars?
So yeah, my last season was All Stars. I watched it in a very weird. I watched the show in like a very random order. Like I started on 27, and then so that's First Blood versus Water, then 28, then went up through like 34, like or 33, somewhere around there. And then I watched all the ones on Hulu, so like 12 through, I don't know, it was like 26, and then randomly watched the rest of them here and there. So
yeah, I should say that you were the one giving us pointers on like what seasons to watch. The reason we started with 28 was because of you, and I think that was a really good. I think for someone completely new to the show, that was a really fun season to start with.
I definitely agree.
And like just because going back to like the first season, it was so much different. Like Jeff is just like not himself. He's like a wimp. He like offers them to stay at tribal council when it rains instead of getting wet. And it's just like he's like a wussy in that season, like compared to other ones.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting about Survivor is that the best order to watch the show is definitely not just 1 through 40, I don't think. Because like season 1, honestly, and even I'd say season 2 as well, the cast is interesting, but the season itself is really slow moving.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you almost need to get introduced to the show on an exciting season to hook you better.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It was like the first time they were doing it, and so it makes sense there wasn't really flow.
Like
other seasons.
So Kyle, the first question I have here for you is, who are you, if you had to think of and narrow it down to 5 Survivor players who are your top 5 ever? We can go 2 directions here. We can go, who do you think are the 5 greatest, or who are your 5 personal favorites?
Okay.
Whichever direction you want to go.
I'm gonna go with personal favorites just
Okay.
because it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be generic and say Tony for one of them.
That's fair enough. He's entertaining as hell.
He is so entertaining. The spy shack, the spy bunker, just like
the spy nest,
the llama impression in 28, and like
llama.
I'm gonna get distracted on Tony now, but you recommended listening to this podcast with him after Winners at War, and he talked about how the character he presented himself as on screen was all an act. Like the way he would even run, the way he would build the ladder, and it was really flimsy and pretend like, oh, I'm just an idiot, I don't know what I'm doing. Like he tried to do that so that people wouldn't think he knows how to win the game.
Yeah, he's really interesting in that. I think going into like Winners at War, I think a lot of the other players kind of considered him a fluke winner because nobody had ever won being such a strategic force. Like a lot of people compare his Cagayan game to what Russell could have done if Russell would have played just a little bit better, but Tony's really the only, he's the only person to ever play that way and win. So I think going into Winners at War, people thought, he flamed out in Game Changers, so he's probably not as great as people think he is. So he definitely played up that kind of foolish persona to his benefit.
If he ever comes back, though, I'm sure he can't win again.
No.
There's no way.
He'd probably be treated like Boston Rob and Parvati were treated in Winners at War.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how they did get all the old school players out first. But I'll go back to my list of 5.
Yeah,
so after
go for it.
We'll keep it together. So after Tony, I would say I'm kind of scrolling through my list of seasons right now. Oh, Ozzy is up there. It's a shame he didn't win.
Yeah.
He's been on, what was it, 3 or 4 seasons?
Cook Islands, Micronesia, South Pacific, Game Changers. So 4.
I think South Pacific was my favorite version of Ozzy because he was like exiled to Redemption Island for most of that, and he's just like fishing for himself and like having the time of his life.
Do you remember in South Pacific when he purposely had his tribe vote him off? Right before the merge because he wanted to beat the opponent.
Yeah.
I think one of his funniest moments on the show is when he tried to act like his team actually voted him off because he had convinced them to do it, and he was doing all this stuff like, I'm going to get revenge on them when I get back into this game, and the other tribe was looking at him and just laughing. And
it's a pretty good Ozzy impression.
He does not have a Hollywood career ahead of him.
I forgot about that, but he would have won that season if he would have won that he got hung up on the puzzle, I'm pretty sure, after that like challenge where you go 8 different ways. But all right, so Ozzy's my second. Let's see. I would put Jeremy up there. I think there's only one Jeremy.
Yeah, Jeremy Collins, the winner of whatever 31 second chance.
Yeah, Cambodia. Yep. I feel like if I was on the show with him, it would be hard for me not to like be on his team just because he's very convincing in the way he acts.
And very likable from what castaways have said about him off of the show too.
Yeah. I just think he's an all-around really good player, and I would enjoy playing with.
Yeah.
4th. Oh, this is tough. I might put Yule up there.
Dude, yes.
I know you like him, but he's like such a nerd.
I know. Oh man,
it was a shame he got voted out so early. And was Game Changers or not Game Changers?
Winners at War.
Was that his second appearance only?
Yeah. He was one of the people who said he was like very much in the mix for heroes versus villains, but I think he had like work conflicts, and so he didn't do that season. But they had called him and asked him to be on it, and then I think like down the road he said, I'm just going to come back if there's an all-winner season because that's kind of like what would top being a regular winner is being on all winners. So that's why he came back for 40.
Okay, and I figured out my fifth. It is Christian from David versus Goliath. 100%. He is definitely up there.
Yeah, he's good.
When I first watched that season, I was like, this guy is like Cochran on steroids.
Yeah.
Like, I swear when they were casting him, that's what they were thinking too.
I think so. Do you remember the challenge where he was like on the, I don't know, it looked like a crucifix, you know? And he was like on there for like 5 hours.
Yeah, he was going against Alec, I think.
Yeah. And he just was like, I have 5 hours where I can ask Jeff Probst any question I've ever wanted to ask him and stuff like that.
And they did like the editing where they just cut between like hour after hour. They did that with him in like a confessional too, because he just apparently talks forever and never shuts up.
I saw an interview with Jeff about Christian specifically, and he said that technically in that challenge, they were supposed to tell them to like, they had to keep like their neck on the beam too, but they forgot to tell them that. So apparently like the way that they stood, it was way easier to endure longer because they didn't have to stand a certain way. So Jeff was like, instead of hearing 1 hour of Christian talking, I had to hear 5 because it was like way easier to stay up there.
Yet everyone else, I think there was like food offered and some people didn't compete, but I wonder if the people who got voted out early actually had their neck up there. Just like
I don't know.
You know, who knows? But
oh man, that's a good
that's
list.
My top 5. What is your top 5? I gotta hear it. Either favorite players or.
I'll go with favorite players because I think best players is really hard to determine because like, you know, like Boston Rob is a great example of how it's hard to determine a best player because like he dominates some seasons and others he went home before the merge. So like, is he a great player? I don't know because that's a really mixed bag of results. So I think it's very specific to like things out of your control, like what tribe they put you on at the beginning, tribe swaps. So it's
and favorite players is opinion, so it's easier to
exactly.
get away with.
Favorite players, number 1, always Yule. Yule.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah. So why I love Yule is just I feel like I would play Survivor a lot like him, like kind of robotic and like very calculating. And honestly, outside of Survivor, he's a really good dude as well. So I like that.
I feel like you would have more like social game though. Like you would be manipulating people a bit more. Like you have the same amount of strategy, I think, but social game would be a little different.
Yule was better at the social game in Cook Islands than Winners at War, I think for sure. Like how he did the things, like he gave Penner his hat back when Penner got voted off. Like he brought it back for him and stuff like that.
I mean, it was so obvious what he was doing though, but I mean, it works. So.
You want something interesting about that season is Adam, that kind of big jock dude who was on the jury, who was like final 5. He made it. Yeah,
I'll look him up.
He was part of that kind of minority alliance with Parvati and Candace, and the only reason that Yule won is because him and Yule made a deal, and he said, if you let me last longer than Penner, I'll vote for you. And so he did, and obviously Yule won 4-3. But Adam said, if we wouldn't have made that deal, I would have voted for Ozzy. So that's just like a crazy. That speaks to Yule's strategic and social game, I think, though, that he was working all those angles.
Well, I do think you have players like Yule, and I know Tony for sure, who would never sleep. They would just like dream up strategy all night. And then some people who actually sleep and might get voted out a little earlier. So
yeah, that's crazy. When Tony was on Rob Sesternino's podcast, he was saying like during the day I was like mentally sleeping, and then at night was when I did like all my real work because I looked for idols and I did all my strategizing at night when everybody else would sleep.
Probably annoyed the camera crew because they can't find him and he's like running off everywhere.
Yeah, I think he said that camera crews would get annoyed with him sometimes because he would like throw in red herrings and kind of throw them off from what he was really doing and stuff. So let's see here. Other people in my top 5. I really liked Wu from Cagayan and Second Chance. Actually, I don't know if he's top 5, but he's just someone I like a lot.
We originally wanted him to win over Tony because I mean it was our first season. We didn't really understand how the jury voted, but He's definitely likable.
I really like Earl Cole, who you actually haven't seen his season, but he's on Fiji, and I'll just give you
What
some
season
background.
number is that?
It's 14. It's right after Cook Islands.
Okay, I'll put that on the list.
So it's actually considered like a not as great season, but I just really like him a lot. He is like a really chill dude, and he like went really far in the season, but he only heard of Survivor like a day before he got cast on the show. He was actually trying to get onto, I think, The Amazing Race or another show for CBS, and they were like, hey, we actually need a slot for somebody to fill Survivor. Would you want to be on the show? And he was like, okay. So then
What
like
the heck?
the next day he got flown out to Fiji. And
That's rough.
he's just really like smart socially. So I think he yeah, I don't know. I like him a lot.
Yeah, that'd be hard though, because I feel like if you know you're going on Survivor, you would like eat a bunch of food early on. I don't know what the strategy is. Maybe kind of starve yourself a little bit to prepare.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he had no preparation whatsoever.
Yeah. Let's see
Is that
here.
your second or?
Yeah, I think he's my second.
Okay.
Oh no, Woo. I put Woo in there, but Woo's probably actually lower on the list. I like him, but he's not like my number 2, I don't think.
Okay. Mine wasn't really in any order.
Yeah.
Just 5.
Yeah, just off the kind of in a random order. But I also some people really hate him, but I do like Russell. Not like I like him as a person, but I think like what he brings to the show is very entertaining.
The Russell? Is there only
Russell?
Okay.
The Hanse himself.
Yeah. I'll get to him when I have another list of players. Yeah.
Okay. Real quick on Russell, I won't say much more because if you've seen Survivor, you know Russell. But I think one of the funniest things is that Brandon Hance's job listing, like you know how they say like doctor or school teacher, his was Russell Hance's nephew.
That's how you know he's a big deal.
Yeah. I know you're not gonna like this person either because you've told me before you don't like them, but I do really like Coach.
Okay.
Okay. Let me explain why.
Yeah,
Are
please
you ready?
Justify yourself. Yeah.
Coach is like annoying as all hell in Tocantins and HVV, but in South Pacific, I think he played a phenomenal game and he just fumbled the ball at Tribal Council. And literally, there have been jury interviews where they all said like we were gung ho about voting Coach, but he basically was trying to act all noble when he was like slitting everybody's throat all season and being a backstabber. And like people like Jim Rice and like all the rest of Ozzy's friends, they were like, if he would have just owned up to being a backstabber, we would have respected him and voted for him. But I think he just played great in South Pacific. But
I have to ask though, do you think he was lying about a lot of stuff, or do you think he was actually honorable? And
like his tall tales, or like his
so in Tocantins, where he like got captured by the people going down the river, and
he
like
said he got the natives.
Yeah, the natives.
I think that's made up.
Yeah, like I don't know. He stuck to it, but like no one believed it. I swear.
Yeah. He also has one of the funniest loved ones visits ever when his assistant soccer coach came to visit him in Tocantins.
Yeah.
And then didn't come to visit him in South Pacific. So like, did they have a falling out or what?
I just thought it was very fitting for him to bring the assistant coach.
Yeah, to really back up that he is a coach.
The whole coach thing, yeah.
Okay, so that's like 4 people.
It might have been 5. You had Yule, Woo, that one guy I haven't seen.
Oh, Russell, yeah.
Russell and Coach. Yeah.
All right, one more honorable mention since we haven't had any women that we've mentioned yet.
Oh shit.
I do love Natalie Anderson from San Juan del Sur. She's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see her play again.
And she almost made it back in Winners at War.
Yeah. She also was supposed to be on Game Changers, but she got a concussion like a week before, so she couldn't go on the show.
Oh, that sucks.
Instead, they put Sierra Dawn Thomas on the show, who was like a piece of cardboard. very uninteresting.
Is that the Sierra whose mom was on the show too, Laura? Or is that a different Sierra?
It's like the blonde one.
Oh, I was thinking of Sierra with the C.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. So those were some of our top 5 favorites. Do you want to do least favorites next?
Yeah, then I could mention someone, so that'd be cool.
Okay, just lead it off already.
Russell Hanse.
You hate Russell, huh?
Here's why. And I'm gonna justify myself.
Yeah, go for it. I'm all ears.
If you watch the seasons in order from season 1, by the time it gets to Heroes versus Villains, he's kind of built a name for himself.
Yeah.
Heroes vs. Villains was my 3rd season I ever watched, so it was my first time seeing him. And I think he's hyped up a lot because he was kind of the first person to look for idols without actually having a clue.
Yep.
Which was a big deal because it changed the game and everyone does it now.
Yep.
But just from my perspective of only it being my 3rd season, first time ever seeing him, there was all this hype around him, and I was like, well, he does some dirty plays. He like hid something at camp, but like, I don't know. He wasn't as like crazy and evil as I thought he would be. Like, he's just a good player.
Yeah. I think if you watch Tocantins, Samoa, which was his first season, the season 19, right before 20, he's like way meaner to people.
Yeah.
Like he did a bunch of things, like he would empty people's canteens when they were sleeping and like throw their shoes and stuff out in the woods so that they'd have a more miserable time. And
okay, yeah, I didn't know that. So
you hate him even more then?
Yeah. Also, like my boy JT, he just used him. Check his idol.
Like, JT went big, and
how did he go down such a slope?
Go big or go home.
Tocantins, God, he was amazing in that season.
That's like the perfect example of how a player. It's hard to determine the greatest players ever, because JT played what was the first technically perfect game in Survivor ever, swept the final tribal council votes, and never got a vote during the regular game, but then falls on his face in both HVV and Game Changers.
Yeah, I was curious to see him because this was the last season we just watched, and I had seen those seasons already, so it was interesting seeing like a strategic side of him. I don't know.
I think if he wouldn't have crashed and burned so badly in Game Changers, they probably would have had him back for Winners at War, but I think they were like, JT isn't as great as we thought he was, so maybe we'll just have a similar archetype like Nick on the show instead.
Yeah. Oh, I should have put Nick in my top 5. I enjoyed watching him too, but
I like
back him. To bottom 5.
Yep.
Coach.
Okay.
Pretty clear. Let's see.
Do you just not like him because he's annoying?
It's just the honor and integrity stuff when I know he's lying like most of the time. It's just like, I mean, it works well for him. So he played good games. It's just, it gets a little annoying after a while to constantly like see him out there on the beach meditating and talking about all the honor and integrity.
Did you like that part in Tocantins where he was sent to exile and he was like, they acted like he was Jesus walking the desert for 40 days and 40 nights?
Yeah, he had his like stick.
Walking staff. Yeah.
It's so stupid.
All right, Russell and Coach, keep them up.
All right. I'm going to say she's kind of more unknown. You probably remember her, Sherry from Caramoan.
Final 3.
She's like the manager woman, and I don't know. She rubbed me the wrong way.
No, I get it. Yep.
Annoying.
She does look like Sandra Bullock, though, I think, which is a random fact, but
yeah. Colton from Blood.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That dude is ridiculous. Like, I don't know how Caleb, his boyfriend, I think they were.
Yeah.
Like, I actually got along with him because maybe opposites attract, but he is like so normal compared to Colton.
I think Colton may get the award for worst returning player ever.
Yeah, Jeff was pissed. Like,
he was.
I mean,
I wouldn't blame him. Yeah.
And then 5th, Let's see. I get a good one. Oh, that's tough. I have like a bunch of weird players.
Go for it.
That I can do separately, but I really don't like Sophie from South Pacific.
Sophie Clark, yeah.
Yeah. Just because I feel like maybe she played a good game, but at the time of watching, it was only my second season. I just felt like she didn't deserve it as much as other players.
Yeah.
Maybe I was just disappointed Ozzy didn't follow through with this whole plan of going to redemption, coming back, getting voted out on purpose. But I was pissed when she won, compared to other winners. Okay. Also, Sandra's maybe in that list too. She's very cocky.
Interesting.
She's very cocky.
Yeah,
I mean, rightfully so. She's won 2, but
she's another one who you can debate, like, is she a great player or not? Because the 2 seasons where she basically had no strategy, she won. And then when she actively tried to be strategic, she fell on her face both of those subsequent seasons.
Mm-hmm. I don't really blame her in Winners at War for just going home right away. But
she would never win a physical challenge.
Yeah, so that's fine. It's what I expected from her.
I think some of my least favorites, Baylor from San Juan del Sur.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You hate her that much?
I don't know, just something about how whiny and bratty she was. I just couldn't stand it.
Yeah, her and her mom together were quite the duo. Definitely more on the annoying side.
Ben from Heal.
Ben in that voice.
Ben Dreebakken or whatever his name is. I just cannot stand his voice. And also on his original season, everybody was just like, Ben's the greatest ever. Ben's the greatest ever. And they like did a bunch of twists to the show to make it easier for him specifically to win. So I hated that.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one yet. So
it's a good season. Yeah. Adam Klein from Millennials versus Gen X and Winners at War.
Is that the guy who tried to play the idol at the podium?
Yep. Okay. Oh, I just can't stand him.
Why do you hate him?
I
want to know.
It's one of those things where, like, I just can't put my finger on it, but something about him just does not click with me. Like in your personal life, you might have people who, like, you don't really have a reason for it. You just don't like them for some reason. They just
kind of know you wouldn't get along with them.
Yeah, I feel like Adam is that dude who's like, I am the Survivor expert and I know everything about Survivor, and like I got on the show and won, so that proves that like I'm the greatest Survivor fan ever. And I don't know, he's not really charismatic. He just comes off as annoying to me, I guess.
I get it. I'm not personally offended by that. It's cool.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're not offended by that.
I just wish it was a real idol at that podium. God, that would have been good.
Yeah. That would have been awesome. That would have changed the game, honestly. They would have I bet you they'll do that in subsequent seasons.
Well, I heard they did it in South Africa Survivor, and that's where he got the idea for it.
Oh, that's interesting.
He apparently watches all of them because he's that type of guy.
Obsessed.
Kind of like you.
Let's see here. Any other people? I don't hate too many people on the show ever, but
should we go into female players since we haven't really talked about them all that much?
Yeah. As in favorite?
I might just run through the list and we can just talk about them, but
go for it.
My first experience like watching the show was Jatia and the rice, pouring that out. I thought it was kind of awesome though that like she did that. I mean, it sucked to be on the tribe with her, but it was a pretty ballsy move.
It was. I don't know what her end game was with that, but
I don't know. I loved Cass in that season too. Her and Spencer always
bickering.
Fighting. Yeah. And is like Spencer's like, what did he say at Tribal Council to her? It was something like
that she was like the greatest goat in Survivor.
0% chance of winning this game.
Yeah.
Something like that. Let's see. Keith and Whitney from South Pacific.
Oh yeah.
we watched Amazing Race as well, and they went on that show together, which like surprised me. I didn't expect to see them there.
Yeah, they got married.
Yeah, and Whitney made it further than Keith in that season, so she did a really good job.
Yeah.
Samhar, do you remember her from that season? The poetry girl?
Spoken word girl from South Pacific, yes.
Yeah. That was odd.
Yeah, it was.
Because she went to Redemption pretty quick, but like just seeing Jeff's like face to her
reactions,
yeah, she was like totally like zoned out doing poetry. And it was interesting. Let's see, the all women's alliance from all women, Micronesia, who was all in that? Suri, Amanda, Parvati, Natalie. Yeah. That was pretty badass. It worked really well. I think out of that group, my favorite is probably Amanda. She's just compared to the others, I felt like she was more innocent and less like, I mean, Suri's yeah. We had actually started watching China, but then we stopped that season early. But she was in that as well.
You should watch that one too. It's a good one.
We'll go back one day.
Yeah, give it a second chance.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any
favorite females?
Yeah, or just ones that pop out.
I think Suri always pops out. People often consider Suri the greatest to never win it. I think there's a case to be made for that. What's so interesting about her is in her first season, in the first tribal council, it was between her and another person. And basically the rest of the tribe flipped a coin and said, I guess we keep Suri, because they barely knew either person, but they just decided to keep Suri. And she's had this like really illustrious Survivor career. But just think, what if she got voted off first on that season? She would have never, ever competed on a subsequent season. And a lot of like the Black Widow Brigade in Micronesia doesn't happen without Suri in it, I don't think. Because she's the one who got Eric to give away the idol to Natalie.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to say no to her.
Yeah.
Like, she's very convincing.
Yeah, I feel like she'd pull you into an alliance really easily.
Also,
go ahead.
Corinne from was Gabon. Was that her first season? I don't know. She was really like, I was annoyed by her in that season, but then when she came back, I don't remember what season she came back in, but
Karamoan.
Oh, okay.
Fans versus favorites too.
I had much more respect for her just because like I just thought the way she played the game was awesome, being so sassy and everything.
I think just she was put into the season of the weirdest people ever, so she came off a lot more mean than she probably would normally be.
Yeah, she's like, I finally get on this show and I get stuck with all these freaks like Randy.
Yeah. Sugar, Crystal.
Oh yeah.
Crystal is like one of the funniest survivors ever. That's a female player that sticks out to me.
She ripped Randy apart at that tribal.
She did.
That was awesome.
I also like Natalie Cole from David versus Goliath a lot. The woman who just was super bossy. And Angelina kept asking for her jacket when she got voted off. I love that part. Can I have your jacket?
She reminds me of Sherry on Karamoan, who I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Just like they're both managers, I'm pretty sure. And don't like to be told what to do by younger people. They just hate that.
I really like, let's see who else. There's another one I'm trying to think of. Oh man. Who is it? Oh, I already mentioned Natalie. One I can't stand is Sarah Lacina. I just can't stand her.
Yeah. You mean Lacina?
Yeah, I guess I'm not supposed to call her by her first name anymore.
I can kind of get that. I mean, I don't know.
Here's why. Are you ready?
I can't really explain, but yes, I'm ready.
Season 28, she gets totally blindsided at the merge where she thought she had the entire game in the palm of her hand, and she gets enormously blindsided, and the look on her face is hilarious. So I loved when that happened. Season 34 that she wins. Okay, did she win the season? Yes, but like Brad Culpepper also won 5 individual immunities, which I thought was like an amazing feat. It's tied for the most ever. And I almost think that she won that season because Troy was a goat and Brad was just like a dick. So people were like, well, I guess we got to go with Sarah. And also, if you read what castmates have said about her afterwards, a lot of people said that, like, yes, she played cutthroat and voted people off, but they also don't respect it. A lot of people, like, don't like her anymore after being on that season with her. They're kind of like, she was a two-faced bitch. So, I don't know.
It's tough because she's, like, always tied in Tony and Cops R Us.
Yeah.
But I guess winning Winners at War made Tony stand apart from her a little bit more.
Yeah. I don't know. I think she thinks she's a better Survivor player than she is. She seems cocky to me. But she's a good player.
I mean, she's a cop, so
yeah.
Confident.
Okay. Let's go with favorite season that you've seen.
Okay.
This is hard.
I think I would say David versus Goliath.
Wow, nice. I like that season a lot too.
And the reason why is just it seemed to be like edited different than the other seasons. Like they tried something new. They would have people be shown with idols in their pockets, and then they would go to like how they found them. So there's like some shock factor.
Yeah.
Unlike the other seasons where when they show them going out in the forest, they're gonna find something.
Yeah.
It had Christian, who I already said I loved. The brochachos.
The brochachos, man.
And there were like lots of advantages that season, but I think it worked better in that season compared to Winners at War because, first of all, I think every advantage was played correctly. There weren't those like coins and stuff to purchase them. It was just advantages, couple thrown in.
Yeah.
There's like Carl with his idol nullifier and going like bam when he uses
it.
In the beginning there was Pat and they were on that boat and they like get medically evac because of that.
Yeah.
It's just like it was so confusing watching it. Yeah, because like they just showed the waves because they weren't recording on the boat. And then you just see him like at shore, like in pain. And then that had the Natalie manager woman in it, and Mike White, who's just odd. He's just there.
Dude, probably the most successful celebrity to ever be on the show.
Yeah. I don't really think of him as a celebrity, but.
Oh, really? He
is.
Have you ever seen School of Rock?
No,
with
I
Jack
haven't.
Black?
Oh. No.
He's written and directed a lot of movies.
Yeah. Maybe if he had been more on like TV, like not just a director, I would have known him more.
He's a funny guy. I liked him on that season.
Yeah. What do you have for favorite?
I was thinking about like 2 in particular.
Okay, I'll help you decide.
Okay, great. The first one was Cagayan. I just think it's like the best. Like every person in the cast is entertaining in some way. Like even the most forgettable person, who I would say was like the first dude voted off, David from the Brains tribe. He was like still an arrogant prick, so he was kind of entertaining. That dude Bryce, who got voted off of the Beauty tribe, like kind of forgettable.
That guy just reminds me of Prince every time I see him.
Wearing all purple, yeah. So I'd say it's between that season, but the other one that I really, really liked was Pearl Islands. I just really enjoyed that season.
That first episode, especially.
Yeah, and just, I don't know, like when you got to the merge, I felt like every episode I could not predict who was going home, and I think that's like to me a great thing to have on Survivors. Like, at final 8 or final 9, like Andrew Savage gets voted off and Rupert's in control. Then at final 8, Rupert gets voted off and Fair Play's in control. Then
And the whole fair play grandmother thing happens.
yes. And then
God.
like the girls get in control and vote off Burton, but then Johnny gets back in control and gets out like Dara, and then the girls take it back and get John out. And I don't know, it's just like the control and the power kept ping-ponging back and forth, and I really liked that.
Mm-hmm. And it was like a really early season too. Like it came out amazing. So I think that kind of set the standard for like entertainment at least.
And one more, Second Chance. I like Second Chance a lot too.
Okay.
It was very fluid, like Pearl Islands to me. Like the control kept ping-ponging back. Like there were the alliances kind of kept shifting episode to episode.
What season number is that again?
32 or 31. That's the one that Jeremy.
Oh, Cambodia. Okay.
Yeah, Cambodia. Sorry.
No, you're good. Back to Pearl Islands. I feel like if I could like relate to any player, it would be probably Skinny Ryan. Just seeing that guy.
Do you remember when he got naked in like the second episode with all the rest of them? Remember when they all took off their underwear and did the challenge? That was a weird time.
That was odd. Yeah.
I don't think that would fly on season 41.
Yeah. What do you think's going to happen for season 41?
I don't know, but at the end of season 40, they did say if you're 16, apply now, which makes me think. I don't think that they're lowering the age. I think that they know that the season probably won't come out till like 2022 or 2021. So they just want young people to apply because they think by the time the show can shoot, they'd be 18. But I think it'll be pretty similar to the last couple that were like David versus Goliath, and it'll be really fast paced, I think.
Yeah.
Jeff said that they're never going to go back to like more simple gameplay. Like, this is actually a topic I wanted to get into next, but like ideas for a Survivor season. One that's been floated a lot is like back to basics with like no idols, no no crazy twists or swaps or anything. Just kind of like play it as if it were one of the first 10 seasons. And Jeff said he doesn't think that anybody will ever watch that, so that's not going to ever happen.
I kind of agree. If they did anything like that, I feel like they should still keep idols around. The advantages and stuff is kind of where it gets out of control sometimes. But I mean, finding the idol still has that element of surprise when you use it. And, you know, there's no nullifier. So, you know, like it'll actually go through.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the reason I haven't watched many of the earlier seasons. I mean, watched 3 of them, but just having no idols just doesn't sound as entertaining.
Yeah, they focus a lot more on the survival aspects in the early seasons. Like, man, we've got to build this fire. Like, again, I think in the first season or 2, they take like, 5 to 10 minutes just to focus on things like building fires and stuff like that. Whereas now they don't focus on that kind of stuff at all.
Yeah.
Did you have any ideas for a season? Like, how I said back to basics. Did you have any brainstorm ideas that you had thought of?
I still kind of like the idea. I'll just say it first, of having the people voted off first come back.
First boots, Survivor first boots.
Yeah. I mean, you had kind of come up with that idea. And I mean, even though it would be a bunch of, bad players, you would think, I feel like it would be kind of hilarious to watch. And maybe you would see like this one guy voted out early is actually like amazing at the game.
Yeah.
Just didn't have a good chance of playing.
Do you remember Chicken from Survivor China?
Yeah.
I think he has the best first boot reaction ever.
What does he say again? Oh, it's
damn.
Yeah, damn.
I think actually it would work like I think it would work decent because usually the first person voted off is either useless in challenges or they're like super eccentric. So if they picked up a lot of those super eccentric people, I think it could work.
What was her name? The one who got voted out first twice?
Oh.
Stephanie? Is that it?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. No, Franquesqua, as Phillip would say it.
We haven't even talked about
Phillip Shepard.
My God, the secret.
Francesca.
Him and Brandon. was the weirdest dynamic between those two.
It
Like they hated each other, but
it was.
I thought Phillip was gonna die to Brandon.
Real quick side note. Do you think Phillip Shepard is a good Survivor player? He played twice and finished 2nd and 7th.
I mean, yeah, he's a good player. He kind of annoys me like Coach with the whole secret agent thing, but can't deny he's good at the game.
Yeah, his Redemption Island, I know you haven't seen that one, but he was more of a GOAT in that season. But I think Karamoan, he actually played pretty decent and was like the leader of that alliance for most of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Other Survivor season ideas you got?
I liked what I saw on Reddit about having a chimp on.
Oh, explain that one a bit.
Yeah, so I think the post was like, it'll be 19 players and a chimp.
Mm-hmm.
And so how would the dynamics of the game change? Will you have all these players trying to get the chimp on their side to vote with them? Will the chimp go crazy if someone votes against it and like maul them? Like, I mean, it would definitely mix the game up and would be entertaining for TV.
I think that the chimp would go far, honestly. Because like if you get to the final 2, let's say with a chimp, you're basically getting all the votes, you know?
Yeah.
It's the ultimate
I don't know if
GOAT.
the chimp can cash in a check. So
True.
yeah, it was just a funny idea. I like that.
All right, I'm going to run some Survivor season ideas by you, and you say like yay or nay, whether you'd like to see it or not. Okay.
Okay.
Survivor one tribe, 20 people all on one tribe from start to finish, individual immunity on the first challenge. And it's just like one big merged tribe.
I feel like they've thought of doing that. It's just the idea of following around all those people
20
and all their
people.
different alliances makes it a little tougher.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to think about how it would change the game if everyone was just grouped together from the start.
I think it would make people really afraid to like put their stake in the like plant their flag and say like I'm in this alliance, because let's say you have 6 people, that seems like a lot of people, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
You need like 12 people in your alliance at that point, which is just overwhelming.
Right. You kind of maybe need to do what Nick did in David vs. Goliath, where he made all these mini alliances with people.
Yeah.
Kind of coordinated them to vote together with him. Because, 20 people is a lot of people to go through and get on your side.
How about Survivor third time's the charm? So all people who have played twice before but just have come up short, like Phillip Shepard, Francesca.
Just gonna get voted out 3 times, especially if
maybe.
I don't know if I'd enjoy that as much, just because I think the seasons where you have all new cast are more entertaining, and you get introduced to new people.
Yeah. How about other ideas that I've heard floated like on Reddit and other places are like Survivor Democrats versus Republicans, or like liberal versus conservative.
I don't know how well that your political views would carry over to surviving on an island.
Yeah.
Maybe more towards like the social game.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that one would lose them a lot of viewers if they did that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What are some other ones I've heard of? I'm trying to think.
They're just asking for people to kind of like hate it, because if there's like a bunch of like dumb Republican or bad Democratic players, they're gonna get judged by saying, "Oh, yeah, you're making Democrats, Republicans look bad."
Yeah, exactly.
Good way to divide the audience.
Yeah, I've heard. So usually they split the season by like theme, like David versus Goliath, or it's like split up by the cast or like by a theme. So like, for instance, seasons like David versus Goliath, they're splitting them up by like the people, saying like you're overdogs, you're underdogs. Or the theme kind of seasons are like, you didn't see this one, but like Ghost Island, where there's a ton of twists, or like Edge of Extinction, where like there's a big twist in the game, but there's nothing really particular about the cast. have you thought, or do you have any ideas around like potential twists like that? Like it's a normal season, except you can get voted off twice or something like that.
I did think that was interesting when they had like the group of misfits come back in one of the seasons and they competed
Pearl
in
Islands?
the challenge. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so there was the 3 teams, and I mean, I feel like it takes such effort to get on the show in the first place to just get voted out early.
Yeah.
It doesn't always mean you're a bad player. It could just be poor luck, bad social game, just being a little too aggressive at the beginning of the game. I think it would work well to have people get a second chance at it. I mean, you can't let everyone back in. It doesn't work like that. Like some sort of competition.
I agree. I kind of like the Redemption Island aspect, even though some people don't, but I don't mind it. Double elimination, sort of.
It just feels like it'd be really lonely spending. I mean, if you keep winning, like Ozzy did, you're out there for like half the game or more than half.
How about, I'm going to run a few random ideas I thought of too. You can, if you win an immunity challenge, you cannot wear the necklace yourself and you have to give it to somebody else. I think that would be interesting in that it would really, it's almost like the reward challenges, how like you have to pick one person to go with you or whatever, but like way more consequential.
Do you think it would work better if they had to give them the necklace before voting or after voting?
Ooh, I don't know. That I guess they could. I didn't think about that aspect.
Because if you give it before voting and you're like a big target, I mean, if you won immunity, you're obviously some sort of target and you have to take the necklace off. I feel like it's kind of a bad thing to win then, because
exactly.
But after voting would work.
Yeah. Let's see here. Any of the other ones I thought of? Oh, I just like this one because I don't like the thing where everybody gets up to whisper now at Tribal Council. So I was just going to say a season of Tribal where you can't stand up at Tribal except to vote.
I kind of like that part.
You like the whispering?
Yeah, it's like,
I just wish we knew what was going on. Like the whole fun part of Survivor is like hearing about the strategy. So when they all just decide on their own, I don't know, just
I mean,
if
they've been filming the episode right, I feel like you would kind of know what they're talking about. But we haven't really talked about like what our favorite part of the game is, like the outwit, outplay.
Oh, true. Yeah, should we shift to that?
Yeah, I kind of segue into that because like that's, I don't know, what would you consider the whispering? Is that more?
I'd say that's like strategic.
Yeah. I think my favorite parts of the game are probably like strategy and social game.
Yeah.
Having like a balance between that.
Yeah. I think Survivor's very much become about the strategy, I think. I think early on it was much more social and physical, but I think like around that Russell Hanse Idol blindside kind of time frame, it became like strategy far and away is the most important over the other two. But
but then you have like somebody like, hold on, just forgot his name, Keith, who's just like, such a lovable guy, like no strategy whatsoever, but he makes it far.
I did not think of him. I should have had him in one of my top 5. I love that dude.
Yeah. So it just shows like if you are really good at one of those 3 pillars, you can make it far in the game.
That's true. I totally forgot about him. Yeah, I think it's really hard to like be successful in the game if you are extremely bad at one of those two. Like I don't think anybody's ever won the game, and well, I guess Sandra is no physical threat at all and she won, but it's harder, I think, to win.
It's true.
I think the strategy is probably the most entertaining aspect though.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a good question. Do you like the challenges? Like, do you find that part of the show entertaining, or are you kind of like, I can just fast forward through and get to the part where they strategize?
Well, I've kind of noticed over time since the beginning seasons, they were a lot more physical challenges. And in the later seasons, they've been like balancing challenges. Like that's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And when like the balancing ones become like 5-hour events, they're kind of boring to watch. Where like the physical, like wrestling in the water challenges.
Yeah.
I like those challenges more than like kind of the tamer ones, I guess.
I like the one, I think it was heroes versus villains, and then they've done it in both of the blood versus waters. It's where you have like sometimes it's in the mud, sometimes it's in the water, but you get like a big kind of like bag that you hold, and then you have to push them off of the platform.
Yep.
I love that one.
I think for my favorite like non-physical challenge, it's the one they usually use at the end of the seasons where you have the balls, you put them in, and you got to catch them
rolling around.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah,
it's just like 1 second you lose focus and you lose.
I will say, if the show ever ends, if they do like the final immunity challenge, what it was for the first couple seasons was just that you had to keep they had like a statue in the center of the 3 people or the 2 people or 3 or 4 people, and you just had to keep your hand on the statue longest, but you also were like standing on a platform, like, you know, Borneo, they did it in Borneo.
Yep.
I think if they ever end the show, that has to be the final immunity challenge. Like, I don't know, I just would love it to come full circle and do that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with the timing of like the coronavirus, having it happen right after season 40 was probably the best timing they could have had.
Yeah.
Because then it kind of gives them a clean slate going into
Agreed.
the next few years.
I feel like the show is going to go to about 50, and then I think that could be like they'll do like some sort of epic season then, and then just might call it.
I don't even know how old Jeff is. Is he like
mid-50s right now?
Okay.
So
10 years sounds about right then.
Yeah. Well, actually, that would only be like 5 years because 2 per year, 2 seasons a year.
It's true. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But still.
So maybe 20 more seasons. I don't know. Rounding it out on the 50 though sounds nice.
Yeah, like I would rather have it round out there than something like season 73 be the last season or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
they're running out of ideas, I think.
I think so too. That's why like they're getting so many more switches and advantages and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to innovate, but I think a lot of people do want to just see it return to the early days.
Yeah.
When you can vote by alphabetical order and all that fun stuff.
I hated that strategy.
I forgot to mention that season, Colleen and Greg were some of the weirdest people ever.
Those two, Greg and Colleen, have been the most asked back survivors ever to never have played again. They've both been asked back for every like returning player season they've ever had.
Yeah. They're just so odd together, and especially Greg, but I mean, Colleen is up there too.
Colleen, or actually, I was going to say, Greg might actually be coming back soon, I've heard. He was very close to being on Blood versus Water, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think last second he didn't want to do it or something, but he might come back soon, which I think who the heck knows what that would look like, but that would be so interesting.
I think for another like future season idea, having like the weirdest players back.
I would love that.
Yeah, because one of the things I know you like about Gabon is that it's a bunch of weird players that season, and maybe Bob isn't the most deserving of winning that, but it was just so enjoyable to watch that season with Sugar and
everybody. Some people really hate that season, but I love that season.
Yeah. So like if you had like Christian and Big Tom and just like
Phillip, Shepard,
Phillip, you know, you can easily make a list of 20.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
But Greg would have to be there, and Colleen.
I think Greg, yeah. Greg is like the original oddball of Survivor.
I don't know if Kat would come back either, you know, for someone who doesn't make the merge. she's not really worthy of ever coming back.
Nobody wants to date somebody who doesn't make them merge.
And
they did break up, so
I think, well, I don't blame Hayden.
That was a very cringy post show too, when she was like talking about how she had to get breast implants to keep Hayden happy.
Yeah, and everyone like figured that's what she was talking about, but she made it so awkward saying it.
She was like, I had to level up to keep on Hayden's level. And everybody was like, what do you mean by level up? And then she like, I feel like kind of motioned towards her breasts, and it was like, oh boy.
Yeah, Jeff just moved on from that quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've gone through most of my topics here, but I did want to bring up one more that I think would be very interesting. But what do you think is like the hook, like the main hook? What's the thing that keeps you coming back to Survivor? You know, like I've talked to people who have said, I watched one season, it was fine, it was entertaining, but then I was done with it. And I just can never compute that in my head, because I was like, how can you not watch more? So if you had to kind of think of like, what's the thing that keeps you coming back to watch, what do you think you'd say it is? Or multiple things.
I think the blind sides.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why like the first season really didn't capture my attention is because like having no idols and stuff, you can't really blindside people with that. I just love like all the strategy that goes into pulling off a blindside. It's really enjoyable when like an advantage gets played perfully, and you get Kelly Wentworth not counted 9 times in a row.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I love.
That was crazy.
What would you say is the hook?
Oh man. It's really hard for me to say. I think it's just I think it's like that a feeling you get when it's like a season that you haven't seen before. And for me, the most intense one was, I think, Cook Islands. And you know that there's 7 jury members, and you get to that 3-3 at the finale, and literally you're just on the edge of your seat, and you're so caught up in this feeling of like, who is that 7th vote going for? Is it Yule or is it Ozzy? And it's just insane. The moments of tension when you don't know the result, like the Tony Sarah fire making challenge.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that.
That is the most intense I've ever reacted to Survivor. I was screaming in my house when that challenge was going on.
I wish we had caught up by that point, but I remember you talking about it and watching it myself. That was insane.
I think I gave myself high blood pressure that day.
You probably did.
But I think that's it. Just like ultimately, if you haven't seen the season, that you don't know who it's going to be. And the 5-4 votes at the finales, or the 3-4 votes, those are awesome. So I think that's my favorite part of it. It's just the slight tinge of unknown that comes along with it.
Also Jeff, just all his sayings and stuff. It was another thing that threw me off in the first season, is all those sayings he has, he wasn't quite confidently saying them each time.
Yeah. I think, okay, here, quick favorite Jeff saying.
You go first.
His personal favorite is, I got nothing for you, after the challenge when the losing tribe leaves. Obviously the classic, and probably the one that stuck with the show the most, is the tribe is spoken. But I also like come on in, guys.
I was gonna say that because my dad always mishears it as morning, guys.
I also like what he says, how he says the thing when they're gonna read the votes. He's like, he says that whole line about like, I'll go tally the votes, and then he says, all right, if you have an immunity idol, now is the time to play it. And then I don't know, there's some whole spiel that he says at that part. Once the votes are read, the decision is final. You'll be asked to leave the tribal council area. I don't know. I just like all that part. I always repeat it when he's saying it.
Yeah. I think the most iconic, though, is probably when you get fire for the first time, and fire represents your life. You cannot be voted out. It's like word for word verbatim every single season.
I think it's interesting too that all of those were like him basically on the spot coming up with them, and then people were like, I like that, so he decided to keep them. They weren't like pre-scripted or anything.
Right. Oh yeah, it would not be the same without Jeff. That's for sure. That's why if the show's gonna end, it's got to end with him.
They've discussed if he were to quit, who would be like the new host. I don't know. I guess maybe people have floated Boston Rob a lot, but I don't really think he'd be a great host.
Yeah, I don't know. He doesn't seem replaceable to me. Like I know there's other countries with Survivor, like the Australian Survivor, but
I actually think
still that guy.
Jonathan Penner could do a pretty good job. I think from like um, Cook Islands and Micronesia.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could do a pretty good job, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Try to stick with Jeff though, if possible.
Yeah. Let's stick with Jeff. All right. Well, we've covered a lot of stuff. Any other topics that I've forgotten that you were looking to bring up?
No, I covered best, worst, weirdest. No, I think that's about it.
Cool. Well, Kyle Johnson, you came on the YouTube channel. We covered Survivor for over an hour at this point.
Hell yeah.
And a robust conversation indeed. So thank you. And to the YouTube folks, hope you enjoyed this. If you do like this, let me know. Comment or like the video, and maybe we'll do some more stuff like this in the future. But with that, thanks
for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming on, and have a good day, everybody. Bye.